Hey you guys, it's your girl T, and I want to go ahead and shout out Jamal Jennings. Jamal sent me this story, and once again it's concerning our favorite controversial female rapper, Azealia Banks. So Azealia Banks is back on the blogs because of her new antics. So what went down is that 2 days ago, Azealia Banks basically made herself up in Whiteface, and she tagged it Whiteface. And when she did that, a lot of folks was going in on her and saying that that's not okay. If we can't wear blackface, and you shouldn't be allowed to wear whiteface. So she was getting into it with a lot of Twitter followers. But then it ended up coming out that it was not necessarily her in whiteface, but that she was getting herself made up to be an ice princess for her new video. So her Twitter exchange with people was just crazy. She was calling folks all types of crackers. And then a lot of the gay media, for some reason, they got involved. And then she basically put the gay media on blast and said that they're a bunch of hypocrites because they like to state their opinion, and call women bitches and stuff like that. But to use any type of slurs towards them, then it's an issue. And Azealia feels like she has a right to say words like faggot because she's bisexual. So she feels like, well, I'm gay, I'm part of the gay and lesbian community, so I should be allowed to say certain words. Other people are saying that those words should never be used. So it's just been a lot of controversy, and I hate using that word myself, just like I hate using, nigger or the N-word. I just feel like certain words don't necessarily have a place in society. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys the tweets, the comments, and people going back and forth with her on social media. So check this out. I'm going to come back with the rest of my commentary. Alright, so you guys just checked out her tweets and her going back and forth. So Azealia Banks is a mess, and yes, I do feel like she does do some things for attention, but she does make a lot of good points in some of her rants and in some of her comments. Like what she was saying about, sometimes gay males like to critique, they like to talk about women's clothing or how women look. They're quick to call people a hot mess, but then if you say anything about them and what they wear, then it's an issue. And I feel like, I can see where she's coming from, because I know there's that show Fashion Queens where, Mr. Lawrence and Derek J, they go in on people and they're talking about their outfits and what they like and don't like. But then if anybody on social media says they don't like, how Derek J dresses, his clothes are not flattering, they don't like his shoes. If anybody talks anything about Derek J, then all of a sudden you're calling homophobic, or that you're just being mean, or you're just picking on him because he's gay. And that's not it. So it's funny that he can be a critic of other people, but then if people critique what he has on, or the shoes that he's wearing, or how he's carrying himself, then it's an issue. So I do understand where Azealia is coming with that, because I do see the double standards where, a lot of the gay blogs, they love to go in on fashion and talk about fashion, but then it's like if anybody else has an opinion, then it's an issue, especially if it's an opinion towards a person who is gay. So I can see where she's coming from with that, but I do feel like a lot of times Azealia just likes to push people's buttons, and she likes to create controversy, because why? Controversy brings her attention, it brings her album sales, and things like that. At the end of the day, she's not going to change who she is. She's going to always be, upfront, abrupt, and not care what you think of her. So if you have an issue with her, then maybe you should not be following her on social media. You shouldn't be following her on Instagram. If you're offended by the words that she uses, then just unfollow her. It's as simple as that, because nobody's obviously going to silence her. And they're saying that if this was a white artist who was saying things like that, then they would be coined as racist. They would lose all types of endorsements. Somebody would fool with them. But that Azealia gets away with it because she's a black woman. So I don't know. The whole argument is really, really interesting. But like I always say, nothing that Azealia Banks says or does, even shocks me anymore, because that's what she's looking for, is attention. At the end of the day, she's looking to make a point and get her statements and her opinions out there to the masses. Just like when she was asking for reparations a few weeks ago, and she was demanding that all white people pay black people back for, this country, this land, and, everything that was built on slave labor. So she does have a lot of truth in a lot of things that she says, but I just think sometimes it's the way that she says it, that might rub people the wrong way. So anyways, let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. So how do you feel about her posting that picture on Instagram saying that she was in Whiteface, knowing damn well that she was getting ready to make herself an ice princess? Do you feel like she was kind of doing that for attention and just doing that for shock value, and she knew what she was doing when she posted that picture? And then how do you feel about what she had to say about the gay media, about how they're hypocritical, how it's okay for those in the gay media to be critical of fashion and of women and, you know, have opinions, but then if anybody else says anything about them, then it's an issue. So let's go ahead and get the discussion popping. All right, deuces.